What is this thing you give birth to, woman? Ekene snapped in anger as he looked at the newborn baby his wife, Akona, had just given birth to. Akona was the most beautiful woman and the dream of every man in the village of Nanka. As a young woman ready for marriage, every man in Nanka village wanted her to be their wife because she was not only physically beautiful, but also had good characters and excellent home training. For most men interested in marrying Akona, one of the reasons was to have a beautiful daughter who could be a replica of her mother. Among all the men who wanted to marry Akona, she chose Ekene because he was a brave man who knew what he wanted and was deeply in love with her. Akona and Ekene got married and their marriage was going well. Akona conceived after a year of marriage and Ekene Joy knew no bond when he found out that Akona was pregnant with a baby girl. "I am so happy to have a mini you. She will look so much like you," Ekene would tell Akona in happiness. Aside from Ekene, everyone in the village wanted to know what Akona's baby would look like. Many speculated that she would be even more beautiful than her mother. On the fateful night Akona went into labor, the villagers gathered around the hut where she was giving birth, waiting for her to bring her child into the world. The midwives, experienced and skilled, had gathered in Akona's house to assist with the delivery. As the labor progressed, the midwives encouraged Akona with kind words and gentle touches. Hours passed and finally the moment arrived. With one last push, Akona brought her baby into the world. As the midwife quickly took the child to clean and examine, there was a sudden silence in the room. Each of them were startled and shocked. Akona's baby had a massively large head, extremely large for a child. Ekene rushed into the room, excited to see his beautiful baby girl, but was shocked to see the big-headed baby lying there. "What is this thing you gave birth to, woman?" Ekene snapped in anger as he looked at the newborn baby. He stormed out of the room in anger. Akona was also shocked and confused to see how big her baby's head was. She was scared to carry her, but when the baby let out her first cry, Akona's heart melted. She carried, kissed, and embraced her, and named her Nkiru. Years later, as Nkiru grew, so did her head, and she was persistently ridiculed by everyone in the village, including children and adults. They would mock her and call her Nkilu, the calabash head, pointing and laughing whenever she passed. Among all the villagers who mocked Nkiru, Ebuka, the prince of the village, took a special interest in mocking her harshly. Whenever he was bored, he would purposely send his guards to fetch Nkiru to the village palace just to tease her and laugh at her. He would make jokes about her head and ask her to place things on it, and him and his friend would laugh about it. These constant ridicules craved deep wounds in Akona's heart. She would cry day and night, wishing her head was normal like everyone else in the village. Her mother would always calm her down and remind her never to pay attention to the insults or jests of the villagers or the prince. But for her father, he hated the sight of her and didn't want it to associate with her or call her his daughter. Whenever the villagers and Prince Ibuka mocked and laughed at Nkiru, she would run into the village forest, seeking comfort among the trees and plants. The forest became her refuge, a place where she could escape the cruel words and find peace. She spent hours wandering through the dense forest, marveling at the beauty of nature and collecting various herbs and plants. Over time, through her time spent in the forest, Akuna developed a deep understanding of herbal medicine and natural remedies from the plants. She observed how some plants had a soothing scent while others seemed to heal injuries. Curious and eager to learn more, she started to experiment with the herbs she found. She crushed leaves, infused teas, and made potions, carefully noting their effects. She learned that certain plants could ease pain, reduce fever, and heal any wounds, while some will even make anyone sleep. With deep interest, she kept making potions with leaves, hoping that one day she would create a potion that would reduce the size of her head. One day, the villagers were celebrating a festival and all villagers gathered in the main square, happily enjoying the music, food and games. Nkilu was there too, hoping to have a good time despite the usual teasing. The prince saw her and decided to make everyone laugh at her expenses. He climbed onto a stage in the middle of the square and called out loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special announcement. Today, we will have a contest to see who can balance the most apples on their head." Everyone turned to look, curious about this new game. The prince continued, "But there is only one person who can win this contest. Let's have Nkilu come up here. With her calabash head, she can surely balance the most apples." The crowd burst into laughter, and Nkilu felt her shake, born with embarrassment. She wanted to run, but she stayed, her eyes downcast. The prince, enjoying the laughter, handed her a basket of apple. "Come on, Nkilu," he said with mockery. "Show us how many you can balance." "Please stop," Nkilu said quietly, her voice shaking with sadness. The prince laughed again. "Oh, don't be serious, Nkilu. We're just having a bit of fun." With trembling hands, Nkilu took the basket. She carefully placed one apple on her head, then another. The villagers watched, whispering and giggling. As she tried to balance the third apple, it fell, and the audience burst into laughter. The prince laughed the loudest, pointing at her. "See? Even with that big head, she can't balance more than 2 apples." Nkilu burst into tears. She quickly picked up the fallen apples and ran away while the prince and the villagers continued to laugh behind her. She kept running until she reached the edge of the village and then continued into the forest. Eventually, she slowed down, sank to her knees by the large tree, in tears and trying to calm herself down. As she wiped her tears away, she heard a faint cry nearby. Startled, she looked around and spotted a man lying on the ground a few feet away. He was injured with a deep cut on his face and bruises on his arm. Nkilu hesitated for a moment in helping the man, but her natural kindness took over. She hurried to the man's side and knelt down. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man opened his eyes and tried to sit up, gasping in pain. I was attacked by bandits," he said in weakness. "They took all my belongings and left me here." Nkilu quickly assessed his injuries. "You really need help," she said softly. "Wait here, I am coming." She quickly gathered a few leaves in the forest and rushed back to the man. She crushed the leaves with her hands and made a paste from it. Gently, she placed it on the wounds on his face and arms, and the bleeding stopped. The man stopped groaning in pain and looked up at Nkilu in surprise. "The pain has stopped. Are you a herbalist?" he asked. Nkilu smiled and said, "I know a few things about leaf." "Thank you," he said. "My name is Shike. If you hadn't been here, I would have bled to death." Nkilu managed a small smile. "I am Nkilu. Let's get you up." She helped him to his feet, and together they walked back to the village. When Nkiru brought the injured man Shike home, her father was furious. He met them at the door, his face twisted in anger. "You this useless girl, What are you thinking? He snapped. Not only do you run off into the forest and waste your days there, now you bring a stranger into my home? With that calabash head of yours, you should know better than to bring strangers into my house. Nkiru flinched at her father's harsh words, her eyes filled with tears. Before she could respond, her mother Akona stepped forward and placed a gentle head on her husband's arm. Please, my husband, let her explain, Akona said softly. She found this man injured alone. She only wants to help. Fine, he said reluctantly, but he's not staying inside my house. He will only stay in the barn where the tubers of yam are stored. It is only for 1 week, that's all. Nkiru nodded gratefully and helped Shike to the barn, making sure he was comfortable there. She helped him with food and water, and Shike thanked her repeatedly, deeply touched by her kindness. Over the week, Shike slowly recovered. Nkiru visited him every day, bringing him herbal remedies and tending to his wounds. With all of Nkiru's care, Shike began to feel stronger. The wound healed. However, the wound left a large scar on his face, making him look hideous. As Shike's week in the barn came to an end, he moved out of Nkiru's home and found a small place to stay in the village. He also got a job in a pigsty, where he looked after pigs. Chike became Nkiru's only friend, someone who saw her for who she truly was and not just the girl with the big head. Days turned into weeks, and the villagers began to notice the friendship between Nkiru and Shike. They often saw them together, walking through the village or gathering herbs in the forest. The villagers and even Prince Ebuka continued to insult Nkiru even more. They whispered behind her back and mocking her for being friends with a man who is not only ugly with a hideous scars on his face, but also work in a pigsty to earn a living. One day, as Nkiru and Shike was walking through the village, they overheard some villagers talking. Look at them, one woman sneered. Nkiru with her calabash head and that scarred man from the pigsty. They make quite a couple, don't they? Another man laughed and added, Of course they do. Maybe she thinks one day her knowledge of herbs will miraculously remove the ugly mark on his face and make him look as she wants, the man said in jest. The prince, who is standing nearby, couldn't resist joining in the jest. He said, Who else will she be with? She has finally found her type. He walked up to Nkiru and Shike and said, Nkiru, why don't you like do things for yourself? Of all the villagers, you choose to be with this type of man? He laughed. Oh, I forgot. It's obvious. He's the only one who can be with you because you both complement each other. He mocked and laughed. Nkiru felt her heart ache at his cruel words, but she quietly turned to Shike, who equally looked hot and sad, and said to him, Let's go. As they walked away, Shike sighed and said, I'm sorry, Nkiru. Maybe it's better if we don't spend so much time together. No, please, don't listen to them. I don't care what they say. None of them wanted to be friends with me or associate with me until you came. Why is it their concern now who I'm friend with? Shike smiled. Thank you, he said. Your friendship means more to me than anything. I wonder how I would have coped in this village if you were not here. Well, we are here for each other, Nkiru said and smiled. One day, we will both find partners who will fall in love with us and accept us the way we are, she said. One day, a severe illness struck the village. The village water supply was contaminated and many villagers fell sick, including the king. The popular village healer, who was known to treat anything, couldn't find a cure to this sickness and panic spread through the community as people began to die. Desperately, the villagers, including the king, turned to Nkiru for help. No, I don't care. Let them all get sick. Why should I help them? Have they forgotten I am the same Nkiru they insulted and calling names because of my head? Nkiru said in anger when her mother told her the king needed her help. Nkiru, my daughter, don't say that, her mother pleaded. You must not repay evil with evil. You have a good heart. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Use the gift you have to do good. Maybe that's how God wants to turn things around for you. Nkiru sighed, touched by her mother's kind words. Mama, if not for you, I won't agree. Nkiru said, It's okay, my daughter. Every good deed has a reward. You know so much about herbs. Go find a cure. Nkiru nodded, determined to help. Shike helped her, and they both worked hard, searching the forest for the best herbs and preparing remedies. Nkiru treated the sick, staying by their sides day and night. Slowly, the villagers began to recover. The king too regained his strength, thanks to Nkiru herbal medicine. In no time, everything was back to normal in the village. One hot afternoon, Nkiru was sleeping in her room when her mother suddenly rushed in to wake her up. Nkiru, Nkiru, she tapped in excitement. Wake up, someone is here to see you, her mother said. Who? Nkiru asked, still sleeping. Come and see, her mother said, and ran out in joy. Nkiru was still sleepy, but she was curious about what could make her mother this excited. Slowly, she walked out of the hut and was surprised to see many villagers gathered around the hut, including Shike. All of them were looking surprised with anticipation. Prince Ebuka was there too. By the corner of her hut, there were gifts of foodstuff, beautiful attires, jewelries, and drinks. As Nkiru stepped out of her hut, still confused about what was going on, Prince Ebuka walked up to her. Slowly, he knelt down on one knee, presenting her with a ring, and said, Marry me. Everyone was shocked. Nkiru stood there with an indifferent expression, looking at Prince Ebuka, who was still kneeling on one knee, with the ring in his hand. The clouds were all ears, waiting for her response. Without saying a word, Nkiru slowly turned away from the prince and walked towards Shike, who was standing among the cloud. Shike has been watching everything with a sad face, feeling his heart sink. Prince Ebuka remained on one knee, shocked and embarrassed by Nkiru's silence and rejection. Now standing face to face with Shike, Nkiru looked into his eyes and asked calmly, When are you going to tell me how you feel about me, or will you keep hiding it? Shike's eyes widened in shock. So, you knew how I feel about you. I feared you would reject me because I have nothing to offer, especially with this hideous scar on my face, Shike said, his voice shaking. Nkiru smiled softly. You should have voiced your intention first instead of assuming. You are not the only one with scars, you know, she said. Without wasting any minutes, Shike kneeled down on one knee and took Nkiru's hand. Nkiru, you are the most incredible person I have ever known. Your kindness, strength, brain, and beauty are unmatched. I have loved you from the moment you helped me in the forest. Will you be with me? Not just as a friend, but as a partner for life. Nkiru's eyes widened with tears. Yes, Shike, I will, she said without hesitation. With joy, Shike stood up and kissed her, sealing their love. The villagers gasped in shock, but Shike and Nkiru ignored them. Hand in hand, they walked away from the venue, leaving the crowd behind. Prince Ebuka, still kneeling on one knee, was filled with anger and embarrassment. No one had ever rejected him so publicly before. He stood up, fuming, unable to believe what just happened. As Nkiru and Shike walked away, the villagers began to murmur among themselves. Some questioned what gave Nkiru the boldness to reject a whole prince, Ebuka, the man who every woman wants, for a poor man like Shike who feeds pigs and has a hideous scar on his face. The news of the incident spread around the village. Everyone has something to say. When Nkiru's father heard about how Nkiru rejected the prince's proposal, he was furious. It has occurred to me that you never wanted any good things for yourself, her father said to her the instant she came back home that evening. So, you rejected the whole prince of this village for that pig man who has nothing to offer you? With that calabash head of yours, shouldn't you be happy that the prince wants to make you his wife? If not for the love and trust I have for your mother, I would have questioned if truly you are my daughter, because a true daughter of mine, who carries my blood in her vein, knows a good thing when she sees one. Then disown me. If you're tired of me being your daughter, instead of insulting me every day and regretting my existence, tell me I am not your child anymore and I will leave. Nkele said and walked away from her father. Although she had no place to go, if she had left her father's house, she was just fed up with the inconstant ridicules from her father. That night, Akuna, Nkilu's mother, entered her room for a heart-to-heart discussion with her daughter, who was still bitter about her father's harsh words. You shouldn't be angry with your father, Akuna said. He's just concerned about you. But he hates me because I don't look the way he wants me to look or as beautiful as you are. He can say anything about my look, but he shouldn't force or expect me to marry a man like Prince Ebuka, a man who ridicules me at every chance he gets. Akuna looked at her daughter carefully and asked, but how much do you know about Shike? I know you met him in the forest after he was attacked by a bandit, but you still don't know much about him or where he comes from. I have asked him several times, Mama, but he doesn't remember. He has lost memories about his past or where he come from. The bandit who beat him had left him in that condition. Akona nodded and simply added, but what if he's lying to you? Nkilo was taken aback by her mother's words. She had never thought about that concerning Shike. Her mother continued, he seems like a good man. Yes, and he seems like he truly loves you. And you love him back. But you shouldn't marry a man without identity. You are not even sure if his real name is Shike. I am not saying you should accept Prince Ebuka's proposal. You are the one to make that decision, not us, your parents. But please, take your time to know more about him. It doesn't matter if he's the only one that likes you the way you are. To me, you are still priceless, regardless of your look. After listening to her mother's advice, Nkilu made up her mind to visit Chike early the next morning to make more inquiries about him again, about who he truly was. Although he had told her he didn't remember much about himself, hopefully, maybe, asking him about it again will regain his memories. Very early the next morning, Nkilu was a short distance from Chike's house when she saw some palace guards entering inside, armed with machetes and cutlasses. A few seconds later, the guards dragged Shike out and dragged him away. Nkilu rushed to them, demanding what was going on, but the guards simply replied that it was the prince's commands and took Shike away. Nkilu rushed to the palace, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anger. When she arrived, she found Prince Ebuka in the middle of a lively discussion and celebration with his friends, laughing and drinking as if nothing were happening. Without thinking, she rushed in and asked him with a firm voice, why do you send your guards to arrest Chike? He has done nothing wrong. You are doing this because I refused your proposal, right? The room fell silent as every eye turned to Nkiru. Prince Ebuka looked up at her, pretending to be surprised at her. Nkiru, you shouldn't be so full of yourself, he said. Arresting Chike has nothing to do with you, with your rejection of my proposal. Nkiru, refusing to believe what he said, then why, Prince? Why did you have him arrested? Well, there has been a report of a traitor in the village. Someone who is conspiring against the kingdom, especially since the village water source was contaminated. Shike is the only newcomer here. Nobody knows him, and nobody knows where he comes from. It is simply a matter of precaution. Nkiru anger fled at his word. Precaution? Shike has done nothing wrong and helped the people in this village. He's kind, loyal, has never shown any sign of betrayal. That's just an excuse, isn't it? Prince Ebuka's eyes flashed with anger, but he quickly masked it. I don't need to justify my actions to you, Nkiru, he said coldly. As the prince of this kingdom, it is my duty to protect this kingdom. Shike's background is suspicious. Until we know more about him, he will remain in the palace custody. And moreover, when do you start talking back at me? Kiru's voice trembled with emotion. This isn't right. You know it. You are doing this because of I choose Shike over you. Prince Ebuka's friends exchanged an easy glance. Sensing the tension in the room, the prince stood up with anger. Enough, Nkiru, he snapped. You will not accuse me of such pettiness in my own palace. Shike will be questioned, and if he's innocent, he will be released. But until then, stay out of this. Nkiru's heart ached at the thought of Shike being imprisoned for something he didn't do, but she knew there was no need to argue further with the prince. You may have the power now, Prince Ebuka, she said to him, but the truth will come out, and when it does, I hope you will be judged by your action. You will see about that. Get out of here with that big head of yours, Prince Ebuka said to. For 4 days, Nkuru wasn't in her right mind. She couldn't go to the forest to search for herbs, which has been her favorite thing to do, and she couldn't even find the appetite to eat. Her mother pleaded with her, assuring her things would go well, but Nkiru knew they wouldn't. The thought of Shike being in misfortune and being treated unjustly because of her haunts her. After days of thorough consideration, she made up her mind to go to the palace and accept Prince Ebuka's proposal, hoping that he would release Shike. It is better for her to be in a loveless marriage than have an innocent man jailed for a crime he did not commit. The next morning, Nkiru made her way to the palace, her heart heavy with sadness. As she approached the palace entrance, she paused, hearing voices from inside. Quietly, she moved closer and overheard Prince Ebuka talking to one of his friends. I am only proposing to Nkiru because my father insisted, the prince said. He believes that her knowledge of herbs makes her an asset that could help place our kingdom above all others. But let me tell you, nothing could have made me marry such an ugly girl with a big head like a calabash. Nkiru's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding as she listened. She couldn't believe she was hearing that. Prince Ebuka continued, and that guy, Shike, I hate him. I hate him because that ugly girl chose him over me, a crown prince. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the embarrassment? How dare she? I plan to eliminate him as soon as possible. I have told the guard to get me a poison to add to his meal. It will be a clean job because I don't want his death linking back to me. Nkiru was shocked and as well angry. She had always known that Prince Ebuka's intentions were not pure, but hearing him speak so bad about Shike was almost too much to hear. She took in a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew she had to be careful now, more than ever. Pushing down her emotions, Nkiru composed herself and entered the palace, pretending she had nothing. Prince Ebuka looked up in surprise when he saw her. Nkiru, he said, masking his entire frustration with a smile. What brings you here so early? Immediately, Nkiru knelt down, her eyes lowered as she spoke. My prince, I have come to tell you that I have reconsidered your proposal. I now accept it. I will be your wife. The prince's eyes widened in surprise, clearly not expecting this sudden surprise. What made you change your mind? He asked. Nkiru kept her voice steady, her face expressionless. I thought for days, my prince. You are the crown prince, and you can give me a better life than Shike could. Look at me. No noble man would want me. I decided to put my feelings aside and make a logical choice. Prince Ebuka stared at her for a moment, as if trying to check whether she was being sincere. Finally, he smiled. I knew you would put your foolishness aside and say reasons. You have made the right choice. Nkiru forced a small smile, although her heart was heavy with the knowledge of what she had just heard. Thank you, my prince, she said softly. But before we move forward, I have one request. What is it? The prince asked. Please, Nkiru said, her voice trembling. Grant me one last chance to see Shike. Let me say my goodbyes to him. I promise I won't ask for anything more. Prince Ebuka paused for a moment. He didn't like the idea of her seeing Shike, especially now that they had agreed to marry. Very well. Although I would have loved for you to reject him in front of the whole village, for everyone to watch. It would have been a pleasant sight, the prince said. But you may see him tomorrow, but only for a brief moment. Nkilu nodded and bowed her head. Thank you, my prince. As she stood to leave, Nkilu's mind was racing. She knew she had to act quickly to save Shike. When Nkilu got home, she dived into action and started making potions. She didn't sleep throughout the night because she only had limited time. The potion she was making was a tough one, which could also cost Shike his life if she wasn't careful. After hours of mixing herbs and leaves, her potions were finally ready. This potion will make Shike to go into a deep sleep for 24 hours, likewise putting his heartbeat to reports. It was a dangerous potion, and she likewise had plans of how to retrieve him back. However, Nkilu prayed many times that everything would go as planned, and that she wouldn't end up killing the man she loves. It was better that she controlled his life than Ebuka killing him. The next morning, just as Prince Ebuka promised, Nkilu was granted permission to see Shike. When Nkilu entered the palace prison, Shike was so excited to see him. He hugged her dearly and kissed her. And without wasting time, Nkilu handed Shike the potion. She told him to trust her, that he should just drink the potion, but that the potion would make him look like he is dead. But before 24 hours, she will revive him back to life. Without question, Shike took the potion from Nkilu and told her that he trusts her with his life. He drank the whole potion without even a second thought. Immediately after Shike had drunk the potion, his heartbeat stopped. He dropped on the floor as if he were dead. Nkilu left the palace right away and ran back home so no one could suspect her. A few minutes later, the guard who wanted to give Shike the poisoned food, as instructed by Prince Ebuka, arrived, but on getting there, he saw Shike's lifeless body. The guard immediately went to alert the prince about it, and the prince wasn't even concerned. Really? He's indeed dead? Well, he made work easier for us. Go toss his body away in the forest, Prince Ebuka ordered. While the guards carried Shike's lifeless body to drop in the forest, one of the guards noticed a mark on Shike's neck. This mark wasn't a scar, but a stamp, which he knew very well. What is it? What are you looking at? Do you know that mark? The other guards asked him. But the guard who saw the mark hesitated and said, No, it is nothing. Let's go. Immediately the guards were done and went back to the village. The guard who saw the stamp excused himself and told the other guard that he needed to go somewhere and immediately rushed away. On the other hand, when the two guards had dumped Shike in the thick forest, Nkilu, who had been following them, came out from her hiding place and rushed to Shike. She firstly opened his mouth and began to pour the potion which would revive Shike's heartbeat to bring him back to life. But after she had made him drink the potion, nothing worked. Shike didn't wake up. Nkilu's heart skipped and she burst into tears, fearing that she had killed the man she loved in an attempt to save him. She began hitting his heart, at the same time calling out his name, and after several attempts, Shike sneezed and woke up. Nkilu hugged him so dearly with joyful tears, and Shike hugged her back. They sat there in the forest holding on to each other while Nkilu told him everything that happened and why he gave him the potion. Shike was sad to hear about it. My love, Shike said, I think it's best if we go to another village and begin afresh, because no one wants us here except your mother. Since you did all this to save me, Prince Ebuka will never stop hunting us, and this time I fear he will harm you too. Nkilu thought of what Shike said. His suggestion seems okay, but running away meant accepting defeat, and besides, they had done nothing wrong for Prince Ebuka to hurt them. It was merely because of his own selfish reason. And moreover, she can't leave her mother just like that. Nkilu turned to Shike and said, No, we won't run away. We have done nothing wrong to live in hiding. Do rest today. Tomorrow, we will both go to the village and confront Prince Ebuka, Nkilu said with determination. Shike sighed, knowing fully well that the woman he loves is one who will never run away in time of danger. Fine, if you say so, he replied, and placed a quick kiss on her forehead. Together, they spent the night in the forest without any problem. The next morning, the both began walking back to the village, even more determined than they were last night. Back in the village, the prince was furious. He had gone to Nkilu's house to bring her to the palace so he could announce their engagement to everyone, but her parents told her she was nowhere to be found since yesterday. Prince Ebuka, sensing that she might have played him again, just like she did the first time, thought about this and were even more angry. He gathered the whole village to make announcements. He told the whole village that anyone who ever saw Nkilu should bring her to the palace for immediate punishment. Just then, Nkilu and Shike walked in, and Prince Ebuka was immediately pissed when he saw Shike. "How come you are alive?" he said in anger. "I thought you were dead." "Well, that's because I prevented your plan to kill him, you evil man," Nkilu snapped at him. Immediately after Nkilu said the words, Prince Ebuka rushed to her to slap her, but Shike prevented him and held his hand. "Don't you dare lay your filthy hands on her," Shike said with rage. Prince Ebuka was shocked to see that Shike was talking back at him boldly. "You pig man with that ugly-looking scar, how dare you talk back at me, the prince of this kingdom, like that?" Prince Ebuka said in anger. "I don't care if you are the prince of the whole world, but if you dare lay your hands on her, I will tear you apart," Shike warned him in full range. Prince Ebuka was surprised and rushed to Shike to attack him, but just as he was about to hit him, the guard who had carried Shike's body to the forest and was surprised to see the stamp on his neck walked in with the royal emperor. The royal emperor is the supreme monarch who is the highest monarch that governs 7 kingdoms, including Prince Ebuka's kingdom. On seeing the emperor, everyone was shocked by his sudden visit to their land and immediately kneeled and bowed to greet him, including Prince Ebuka. Hearing that the loyal emperor came to visit their land, Prince Ebuka's father, the king, rushed out to greet him and bowed to him. "His loyal emperor, Your Highness, you are welcome to our kingdom. To what do we owe this sudden visit? You never told us you were coming," Prince Ebuka's father, the king, said. The loyal emperor didn't say anything. Instead, he looked around and suddenly his eyes rested on Shike with a surprised yet compassionate look. The emperor quickly went to Shike and pulled him up from the ground. He shook the back of his neck and saw the mark there, and he pulled him closer and embraced him. "My son." Everyone was shocked. "Shike, my son. So you are alive," the emperor said with tears in his eyes. "I heard you were attacked and dead." Shike was surprised too. He looked at the old man for some minutes and then said, "Papa, is this you?" "Yes, it is me," the emperor said. Shike looked at the emperor closely and then burst into tears. "Papa," he said again, and the both hugged each other. "It is okay, my son," the emperor said. "When a guard came yesterday and told me that you were in this kingdom, but that he discarded your body, I had to come and see your body myself, but I'm surprised to see that you are alive," the emperor said in tears. "I could have been, but thanks to this beautiful lady here, the love of my life was saved," Shike said as he pulled Nkilu close to him. The emperor embraced Nkilu immediately. "Oh, my daughter, thanks so much for saving my son," the emperor said, and then turned back to Shike and asked, "Since you have been alive all this while, why didn't you come back home? Your mom and I had mourned your death for months, thinking you were dead." "I'm sorry, Papa. I couldn't remember anything. I just remember everything now I saw your face. When we went to the executive meeting that day, I was attacked. The bandits who attacked me hit me hard on the head. They thought I was dead, but I ended up forgetting a lot. I could have been dead though, but it was Nkilu, my love, who saved me that day," Chike said, still in tears. "Oh, my daughter," the emperor said, and embraced Nkilu again. "May the gods bless you," emperor said to Nkilu, showering her with praises. All this while, Prince Ebuka, his father, and the whole village couldn't believe what they were witnessing, that Shike was the son of their loyal emperor, the popular emperor's son, who many people talked about because he was always humble but doesn't showcase himself that much. Just then, Prince Ebuka came closer to the emperor and tried to pretend to be friends with Shike. "Oh, your Supreme Majesty, we didn't know that your son had been living among us for months. In fact, he had been a good friend of ours," Prince Ebuka said in pretense. "Oh, shut up. I have heard so much about how you mistreat my son. I was told you had given orders to the guards to poison him. You heartless man. I will call a meeting with the other kings from the other remaining 6 kingdoms to see that you and your father are removed from the loyal family. A heartless person like you shouldn't be ruining your kingdom," the emperor said. Prince Ebuka and his father began to plead, but the emperor ignored him and left with Shike and Nkiru. Nkiru's mother was so happy with how God had blessed her daughter with a good husband who would turn out to be the best of all. On the other hand, Nkiru's father was so ashamed of himself for having treated her daughter and Shike in such a bad way. He apologized to them and they forgave him. Shike and Nkiru had a grand, beautiful wedding and invited everyone to their wedding, including the villagers who had insulted her in the past. Their story was still a shock to many, and people who insulted her still couldn't believe that Nkiru, the Calabash head, did not just marry a mere prince, but the future royal emperor who would be ruling the 7 kingdoms.